Oh, and here we are, Belief Hero family. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the support. You guys have been awesome this week. We have had an absolutely incredible week. Tons of information on the topic of reinvention. So let's get started. If you don't know anything about reinvention, kind of bring you up to speed. Reinvention is defining your goals. It's a key process of change. So imagine a clear and exciting place you want to be. Describe the new version of yourself or a situation in detail so you know where to focus your efforts. So that's what reinvention is all about. It's figuring out where you want to be, where you want to go, maybe what you want relationships to look like, or maybe you've come into a tough place in life and you're like, I don't ever want to go through this again. And you're going to kind of need to go through a place of reinvention to go, you know what? I'm not doing that again. All of those things are components of reinvention. So it's defining goals. Maybe that's, again, relationships, marriage, work, professionally, any of those things. But you describe to yourself a new version of yourself or a situation in detail so you know where to focus your efforts. So in other words, this is the outcome I never want to repeat, or maybe this is the outcome I want to be a little bit different, and you focus your efforts on that clear detail between what you got and what you want, or maybe just what you want. It's totally fine. This clear view helps motivation. It guides our decisions and making change more planned and successful. Anytime we can plan something, anytime we can detail out a trajectory for something, it simply makes us more successful. If you're join the live chat, say hello, and we'll get you into the conversation. So, reinvention, whether it's a job change, personal growth, a different way of living, maybe a health change or something like that. I don't know. Having a well-defined goal works kind of like a guiding star. It makes sure each step leads towards the bigger picture. And not only does this help with progress, but it also brings meaning to the journey of change. So, we detail out all of these steps so we can say, hey, this is where we're going. We're setting a trajectory. I think last week we talked about just buying a ticket, going to the airport and getting on the plane. That's what you're doing. You're saying, this is where I'm going. This is my trajectory. And then all of our footsteps starts to line up with that progress. So not only does this help with progress, but it also brings meaning to the journey of change. So what does that mean? When you plan something out, you kind of get all in on it. Or you kind of have to get all in on it, right? If you're going to get this detailed, if you're going to be this specific, you got to kind of get all in on it. And what that does, it says, hey, you're kind of worthwhile. You're worth your dreams. You're worth your ideas. You're worth the effort of making the change, right? So that's what this is saying. You're saying, hey, this is worthwhile. I'm worthwhile, and that reward comes with the work you put into it. So that is kind of where we're going to kick off tonight when it comes to what is the purpose of reinvention. I have some notes. I'm going to have to look over here because I got a lot of notes. I counted at the end, right before I got on, about 18 pages of notes for reinvention, stuff we covered this week. I don't know if you were following the reels on Instagram or on the shorts on YouTube, but man, there's a lot of information there. We're just plowing through all these different components of reinvention. And so this Be Bold hour, really gives us a chance to slow some of that down. Man, on those reels, you got to talk so fast. You're getting so much information out there. But this gives us a space to go, okay, let's dive into that. So one of the first things I want to dive into is the rewards of discovering your voice. So overcoming challenges and finding your voice. I talked about that a lot this week. There's something to you saying it. Somebody pats you on the back and goes, oh, you did really good at that. I play guitar at church, so I'll use that example. So you did really good. That's different. That's like a bleep of affirmation, right? But that does feel different than when you're on stage and your part comes up, and you're like, I got this. I practiced this. I got this. I've done this 100 times, and I've got this. Those are two different dialogues. And I don't think you believe the second one until you believe the first one, which is yourself saying it. Even though I said it in reverse order, for those of you who listen really well, you'll catch that later on the replay. So overcoming challenges and finding your voice during reinvention process yields transformative rewards. In other words, we want to strive for change in a reinvention process. And so Here is the first reward of discovering your voice: enhanced self-confidence. That's a reward. That's a huge reward. As you express your thoughts and opinions openly, your self-confidence grows. This newfound confidence permeates various aspects of your life, bolstering your reinvention journey. So what am I saying there? What I'm saying is, when you start to hear your voice, you work on your voice, as I said in that opening, about making it worthwhile and rewarding you are worthwhile, you reaffirm those things in your head. And so maybe you're going, okay, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm in a place right now where all this seems too much. Your first step in something as simple as finding your voice is simply saying what you want. That literally is a good enough first step. I would like to not be in X situation. I would like to be able to have Y situation next time instead of X. X is bad, or Y looks much better. That's it. That is literally how simple those beginning steps are of finding your voice, because eventually you're going to run into villains. We talked about that. The belief villains are going to get in the way, the doubts, the confusion, the speed of life. All of those things are going to come into play eventually, and you're going to have to start saying that louder. That's a good way of saying it. I wish I caught that this week during a reel. You have to start saying it louder. So you can't really project it till you believe it in here fully, right? I'm just going to hit a couple of these because we only have an hour. And I am working on the website. For those of you who are following along, the website's close. I just need a place to be able to put this stuff at the end of the week. Okay, I want to be able to put a whole bunch of information on the website, all this stuff, so you can just download it and then read it along on the live. If you're like, hey, that topic on momentum, I like that. Well, it'll be on the website. You can grab it and download it, and then when we go through it, you've kind of got something to work through and read along. So it's not like a workbook. It's not anything like that. It's just all my notes. So another reward of discovering your voice is stronger relationships, and who would not want those? And I think in a simple, boiled down sense, when we are able to communicate with ourselves what we want, it allows us to better communicate with others what we want or maybe what we need from them, et cetera, et cetera. So of course, that's going to lead us to better relationships, setting expectations, meeting expectations, all those things. Reinvention is just, it is a wonderful thing. It's a lot of work. If you're listening to the reels this week and the short content, it's a lot of work. But it is a good thing for all of us to do, regardless of where you're at in life, regardless of where your faith is at, regardless of where relationships are at. It is always good to go maybe a little less X, a little more Y. You know what I'm saying? So third, alignment with values. That is a benefit of finding your voice. And of course, you can imagine why that would be, right? So the more you speak who you are, the more you project who you are, the more who you are comes in alignment with who you want to be. Make sense? Because a lot of times we want to be something, but we just can't quite get there. So you're bringing those two words together, which is a big deal with authenticity, which goes to self-confidence, which goes to self-doubt, and all those villains, man, they just get let out of the cage, and away they go, and you're stuck again. Number 4, I'll probably end here with this. The fourth reward to finding your voice in the reinvention process is inspiration to others. It's a big deal. Expressing your authentic self can inspire others to do the same. Your journey of finding your voice becomes a source of motivation for those around you, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So not so much X, but a little bit of Y, and then Y. A little ripple effect. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Wouldn't that be a great way to live? Wouldn't that be fun? Oh my goodness, getting little ripple effects of reward in relationships. Oh, that'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? All right, next. Close that one. I have too many notes to use teleprompter. So in case somebody gets on and asks questions, okay, I want to be prepared. So that's why we're doing it over here in Word. I'm going to do a Tech Tuesday broadcast. I'm going to talk about the teleprompter. It is awesome. I am so happy with it. All right, next. Man, this one's probably the toughest one of the week. And I was going to put this one in a reel, and I got to like midweek, and I was like, man, if I don't have more encouragement in here, people are going to think reinvention's awful. They're going to be like, no, Hatcher, rather than doing the reinvention thing you talked about, I am going to instead, I'm just going to go stick hot forks in my eyes or something that is more rewarding. And just because you're talking about all the work, right? So you think, oh my goodness, there's a lot of work. And it's not necessarily that much work, but it's specific work. Double check in the chat right now. All right. Somehow it closed. Challenges to finding your voice during reinvention. This is a big deal. It's a really big deal. I think the challenges, man, there are so many internal villains. There's so many external villains when it comes to finding our voice in reinvention. And I think finding your voice in relationships in general is tough. Inside the home, inside your family, all those things where you've got a lot of restriction, and I think you should also say friction in resistance to change. The problem is we all need to change. So if you're going to change, you have to go past resistance, you have to go past friction, and you have to go into that past territory that might have some other negative stuff, but you have to be able to change. Everybody has to be able to change. In fact, you could probably sum up a huge part of this world is about a life on this planet is about our ability to change. So here are four, I'm learning to count today, 4 challenges with finding your voice during reinvention. I think it's important to at least know, hey, these are challenges that are going to come up. These are challenges everybody is going to have to, anybody's going to have to work through. When we know that everybody's working through something, that it's a normal part of it, it doesn't allow us to attach to ourselves maybe some negative impact in the immediate. Does that make sense? So you go, no, a little bit of friction's normal. People don't want me to change. They're stuck. Family dynamic says, sit here, say this, do this, but you're like, kind of want to be outside that. Kind of want to be out of the pocket. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm growing. I'm learning. I'm growing. I don't want to do that anymore. So to know that there's going to be friction, there's going to be resistance, there's going to be setbacks, those things allow you to say, hey, I'm normal, and then you can buckle down. But I think if you don't know that there's going to be these 4 challenges to finding your voice, you might think it's you. Or worse yet, you might believe the belief villain that's saying, hey, you're fine where you're at. You're like, oh yeah, I'm fine where I'm at. And then you get a little less confident because you're not really fine where you're at. That's what started this whole thing, right? So here we go. While rewards of discovering one's voice are abundant, the journey itself is not without challenges. We talked about several factors can hinder this process. These are big ones. If you're join the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Have some dialogue. Feel free to say something, even if it's hello. Say hi to your Belief Hero family. First challenge, fear of judgment. Remember that resistance thing I was talking about? It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. This is normal. You are going to have resistance to change. There's going to be resistance to change. You resist you changing. Otherwise, diets would be easy. Sleep habits would be easy. Hanging out with certain friends would be easy. Faith-based changes would be easy, right? If you didn't resist it, right? So it's acceptable to understand you're going to get resistance externally if you get it internally, right? All right, because your external friction is somebody else's internal friction. So internal friction runs all friction. Okay, a little deeper than we needed to go, but that's okay. Sharing your authentic thoughts and feelings requires vulnerability. The fear of being judged or rejected by others can impede our willingness to speak up. So this is really a belief villain. This is the whole purpose of the belief hero, is to slay this belief villain of judgment. We talk about that in the watchers, the people that just sit back and watch you quietly. Not really hoping you fail, but, they're not necessarily going to call the water truck when you're on fire either. You know that group of people? We all got those people, right? One of the things we talked about was going into conversations. There's just one tip for this. Going into conversations, not looking for affirmation, but going into conversations, speaking execution statements. I'm preparing this. This is where I'm going. I've gotten good advice. That was the other one I said. I've gotten good advice on this. Not going in asking. When we go in asking, almost seeking validation or affirmation, we kind of want that pep talk. And because we really want that pep talk because we're terrified or we're afraid or we're scared, instead of getting a pep talk, kind of get this. We get that judgmental friction. And you can avoid that and be prepared for that. Great way to do that is just probably not open up to certain people until you're ready. That is the best thing to do in certain circumstances. All right, number 2, past conditioning. Man, this one's a big one. This one's like, it's like code for family, right? Previous experiences, societal norms. Oh my gosh, I'm almost getting to Russell Brand territory. I'm going to start speaking in an English accent. Cultural influences can shape our willingness to express ourselves. That's really fair. Unlearning these patterns can be a daunting task. So one of the challenges of finding your voice is shutting down other parts of your voice that may or may not hold the same value as they did at one point as they do today. So opinions of you, maybe, man, there's so many examples. Let's say I was really, really good at, alter ego. I go right to alter ego, right? Okay. So we'll use alter ego. We'll pick on that. I was really, really good at basketball. Oh, what's his name? Cloudy with the chance of meatballs. The character, the baby, right? And he turns into the chicken. What is his name? Oh, what is that guy's name? The chicken, Brett. Isn't his name Brett? I'm checking the chat, see if somebody else knew. Brett. Okay. There's a guy that is stuck in past conditioning, right? He has to be that character. He is going to live and die as that character, oblivious to everything else and every other possibility. That is exactly what this is. Everybody on the island wants him to be Brett. He wants to be Brett. They're all happy. No friction. All right. Next, lack of self-awareness. This is a big one. Whether you're looking at reinvention for relationships, you're looking at reinvention for professional outcomes, you're looking at reinvention for learning, maybe doing something new with your life, pursuing an opportunity, maybe just overall self-evaluation. All those are wonderful. But one challenge of that will be a lack of self-awareness. So getting past, seeing yourself through that lack of self-awareness. This is real. Some individuals may struggle with knowing who they truly are or what they truly want. And past conditioning can play a big role in that, can't it? All right. This lack of self-awareness makes it challenging to find a genuine voice amidst the noise. Man, there can be a lot of static in our heads. And I think with this, what I was trying to communicate in a fair sense in this, looking at challenges, was there's always two sides to every coin. There is legitimately the caste system that everybody puts on us. There is legitimately the caste system that we put on ourselves. Okay, fair enough. If you're always late to work, all right, and you're like, I want to reinvent myself where I don't want to be late for work. I want to be prompt. I want to be put together. I want to have my crap together. And somebody says, well, you're always late. Like, you have to acknowledge that. You have to own it, right? Part of reinvention is you have to own legitimate challenges to your goal. That's fair. If you can't legitimately accept challenges to your goal, that will limit your reinvention because you have to stay in the pocket that you're willing to accept. And unfortunately, that's not the high emotional intelligence that a full physical, spiritual reinvention requires. And so that becomes a challenge. You have to be able to accept the challenges, not the critiques, but the challenges that come along the way. You have to be able to internalize those and challenge yourself to say, yes, I am selfish with my time, and I need to stop being selfish with my time, and I need to stop being late. And you might even be able to go as far as say, it's not very nice of me to be late. I bet a lot of people are ticked off about this. And then acknowledge that and go, the consequence is what? It's going to take a while for that reinvention for people to believe it. And you're going to hear about it quite a bit. That's fair. You got to acknowledge that. Number 4, inner critic. Negative self-talk and self-doubt can sabotage your efforts to speak authentically. Ooh. Overcoming this inner critic is essential for embracing your voice. Man, I was brutal when I wrote this. Whoa, I don't even like reading this. Sorry. Oh, that was a rough one. Negative self-talk and self-doubt can sabotage your efforts to speak authentically. I know this is tough. Allergy season. One of the challenges to finding your voice is going to be giving yourself the space. Okay, giving yourself the space to make the change, and that space, the stillness. Settling all those other voices in your head. There's a good chance, if I'm just going to throw this out there, if this is you, where all these inner self-critic volumes are so high, constantly going, okay, it's going to be very hard for you to break past those because their volume is so high. And the moment you get a blip of quiet, of peace, it is very easy to go and turn that back on. Because the silence, the peace, the space is going to be terrifying. If you've lived in that situation. I can think of examples in abuse. I can think of lots of examples where that volume's super high. And that would be a very real recovery situation, right? But in finding your voice, you have to be able to settle those. So that's a fair challenge. You know, I was going to go on to significance of finding your voice. I think I'm going to stop. Just give me 1 second here. Because I think inner critic, I think I want to answer that. So if you just give me 1 second here, I think I'd like to answer that inner critic. Finding your voice during periods of reinvention, transformative, empowering. Nope. Maintaining your value. Okay, I think that's where I want to go. I do. I want to go to maintaining your value because there was something in here about that. See, what I'm thinking is we need to follow that up. Yes, I think this is a good answer to that, a segue to from that inner critic, because I think that's a legit thing. I think there are a lot of people that have the volume is really high. Those inner critics are really high. And I don't know why this is important to me tonight, but it just is. So that volume's high and you're trying to create that space, the fear of that. I think it's fair when you're starting this process to have some fear. Remember, the belief hero, we do not want to be fearful of anything, but we do want to do scary things often, daily. Okay, so we don't want to be fearful of things. Very few things we're talking about tonight are going to hurt us. Might be a little bit painful, but they're not going to hurt us, right? Okay. Maintaining your values during a period of reinvention is essential to staying true to yourself, ensuring that your transformation lies. So this is where the rub comes from those high volume negative villains in your head, right? You're saying, I'm trying to stay true to myself, and that villain's saying, you're not worth that. You're not worthy of that. You don't deserve that. Man, I got to be onto something. You don't deserve that. You're not worthy of that. You're just going to mess it up anyway. It won't stick. It won't last. Nobody cares. You're not the kind of person people listen to. You've tried before. You failed. Sorry, I just keep messing with this. This is just going to be my nemesis. This stupid boom mic. I'm going to break this thing off. One of these days, it's going to fall. These inner volume villains, the volume of them can really damage how hard it is, damage how we accept value. Good chance if this is you, if those things are you, you deflect a lot of compliments, you deflect relationships. You got your bubble, that's it. Stay out of my bubble. The reinvention process of building relationships and changing relationships and doing those things are getting past that bubble. It's a big part of it. It's a really big part of it. So take time to identify and define your core values. So this is how you work on this. Clarifying your core values so that you're speaking the truth about yourself. Reinvention, it's important that you speak the truth about yourself. What you want, what you like. I know Karen and I do a lot of work in the network marketing industry. Somebody wants to build a business, clarifying why they want to build a business, how they're going to build a business, why it's important to them. You know, there's a lot of that. I know it's all standard like boilerplate, but there's a reason we use a why statement. There's a reason we use dream boards. There's a reason we use those things. When Karen and I sit down and look at our marriage, the first thing we do is make a value statements about our marriage. We have a trajectory for our marriage. We have a whiteboard of a why board for our marriage, right? Those are important because we're clarifying core values. And what it does is it gets thoughts. So in my marriage, it helps Karen and I go, okay, we're in alignment, single file, right? Single file in our goal and our actions. In my head, I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting those villains, and I'm getting those self-doubts. I'm getting all those things in alignment with what my goal is. Really cool stuff. Create a value list. Write it down. That's super important. Set clear intentions. The purpose for why you're doing it. Do not sabotage yourself with poor intentions. In other words, tell the truth about what your intentions are. We're going to go back to business because that's the easiest one for me. If you are in business to be in business, that means you're in business to build a profit. You don't have to hide that by being a self-help guru. You do not have to hide behind anything else. You can simply be in business to be in business. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't hide behind something else to justify it, because in that you create a disconnect of your core value. And in that, you start this little chirping villain of insecurity in the back of your mind, and then you're running from that sucker, and you don't want to let it out of the box because you don't want to be having that thing chase you down. Okay? So set clear intentions. Prioritize your decision making. That means center your decisions and your actions around your priority, your values. Stay mindful and reflective. Think back on what you're doing. This is all really good stuff. Really good stuff. Create a personal mission statement. I love this. Okay, so we talked about baby steps in the beginning. Writing a personal mission statement is a great step. This is a wonderful thing to do. If you're looking at reinvention for relationships, marriage, money, job, work, just in general, a mission statement on why you chose to go from X to Y. Remember, Y is over here, X is over here, okay? And mission statements are huge for that because they verbalize the importance, they verbalize the trajectory of it. They're super important. Man, reinvention is awesome. And you can see why so much in self-belief and self-confidence come into this. If you don't know why you're doing something, you haven't even written it down, that little chirping of insecurity is going off in your back of your head. And if that thing's going off constantly every time, it's like a fire alarm in the back of your head. It's all you can hear. Well, that's how you're going to go through life. Gosh, you don't want to do that. Don't do that. A little bit of work. Shut that alarm off. Have clarity in your thinking. Oh my goodness. Respond instead of react. All right. Set boundaries. I think this one's really important. Yes, I know what you're thinking. I'm not going to say family. Establish boundaries that protect your values and say no to opportunities or situations that conflict with what you hold dear. Now, this plays out in a lot of different ways. Just checking the chat. A lot of different ways. But one of the most significant ways that it impacts your reinvention is who and how you share with early on. And I think of it like this little infancy, this little baby egg. and your reinvention is just like super delicate and needs protected from everything. And unfortunately, sometimes your reinvention process got to go like a couple days, weeks, months, maybe even a little bit longer, and you don't share it with anybody. And then when you do share it with somebody, you're like, ooh, look, I'm back. Oh, that's it. That's all you get. That's pretty normal. And I would say that is actually a healthy way of boundaries. You have to share it with people. You have to say it. Sorry, allergies killing me again. You have to be able to say it, right? But you have to be able to protect it at the same time. Okay, and you can't live in a bubble. So the whole point in reinvention is get out of your bubble. If you're in a bubble, if you're the bubble person, you got to pop that puppy. You got to move on. Okay? But if you're the person that goes, I just share too much, or I get walked on, or these individuals are my belief villains, these are the watchers, etc., then you have to give yourself permission to hold back and not share it yet. Nothing wrong with that. As long as it's done with the intention of sharing it someday, because you can't hide it, because then it's not authentic. And that goes against your insecurities. And then I have to make a whole other podcast. Reflect on success and challenges. Practice self-compassion. That means be nice to yourself. Don't be mean. Regularly reassess. That means constantly checking towards your goal. Embrace patience. Celebrate your integrity. Remember, maintaining your values is a conscious choice. Oh, man, I was hitting it this night. I don't know what I was doing. That requires ongoing effort. Your values provide a solid foundation for your reinvention journey and help you navigate change with authenticity and integrity. There you go. Just gotta power through some of those things and not let the belief villains get you in a place where you are not feeling authentic. I like that. Finding your voice. I like that. Okay. We're almost, so we're going to hit on the significance of finding your voice. I'll tell you what, throat's dry tonight. Man, it's one of those nights. Significance of finding your voice. And this is why I believe that reinvention should be something you do almost daily. Now you might be thinking, well, I just got to get through like this big one right now. That's fair. I would really challenge you to a lifestyle of reinvention. I think every time a relationship goes not the way you wanted it to go, man, I got to be so careful. Life doesn't go the way you want it to because life. That you got to get over. What I'm talking about is if you have a little conflict, you have a little disagreement, something isn't exactly the way you thought it should be, those types of situations. Does that make sense? This is reinvention. You're not reinventing the world to make you happy. That's not what we're doing here. That has nothing to do with what we're doing. We're talking about changing the way we view our interaction, the way we view our responses to things, to have outcomes that are better, more profitable, and good, kind. Okay, kindness. All right, so the significance of finding your voice. Finding your voice refers to expressing oneself authentically, openly, and confidently. Does not mean being a jerk, just means being confident and open. It encompasses speaking up, just being honest, sharing opinions, and asserting beliefs with clarity and conviction. Get compassion. Yes. Get some conviction. Get some passion in your voice. Stand up. Yes, I like that. In the context of personal reinvention, discovering your voice holds immense significance. It acts as a catalyst that propels you forward in your journey and transformation. I was excited about this when I wrote it. 1, self-identity and authenticity. Reinvention often involves shedding old identities. That's right. Break free of those, my freedom, and embrace new ones. When you find your voice, you tap into your true self, your values, your passions, super important, and your unique qualities. You have a unique voice. That's what I'm talking about. This authenticity becomes the foundation upon which you build or reinvent yourself. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I think if you just put kindness at the end of these, you really end up in a good place. If you could say reinvention involves the shedding of old identities and embracing kinder ones, that'd be a good way of saying it. You find your voice and tap into your true self, your passions, unique qualities, sharing of kindness. Man, that's good stuff. Number 2, clarity of direction. Your voice acts as a compass, guiding your choices and actions during the reinvention process. When you can articulate your desires, aspirations, and goals, you're more likely to make decisions that align with your newfound path. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Number 3, empowerment. Discovering your voice empowers you to take control of your life. It allows you to communicate your needs and assert your boundaries, fostering a sense of agency. I don't know if I meant agency. Did I mean agency? Fostering agency and independence as you navigate through change. Do you ever write things and think, what was I reading when I wrote this? Like, was I reading do you ever write something, all of a sudden it sounds like you're trying to be like half Old English? Or I wrote something the other day, it sounded like I was trying out for the Russell Brand show, transcending societal norms or something like that. And I just typing and just writing things out, and then all of a sudden I came back to read it for the reel, and I'm like, what? That's funny. Effective communication. Reinvention involves forging new relationships or altering existing ones. Remember, reinvention is going to take some effort. There's going to be some resistance, some pushback, some friction. All of those things are a part of it, right? Having a clear voice enables you to communicate effectively, fostering deeper connections and understanding with others. In other words, when you're clear, I like this. I should have put this in the reel. When you have clear goals, when you have clear intentions, when you're focused on kindness, I think that you can do a lot of these things without battling. So I think if we're talking about personal development, those things. No, if you're reinventing because you want to be a content creator, you're reinventing for part of a network marketing business. If you're reinventing for those things, it's a little bit different, but it's the same. If you're reinventing for marriage and relationships, maybe a spiritual transformation, those types of things, okay, then I think this becomes super important. Have a clear voice enables you to communicate effectively, fostering deep connections, understanding of others without battling. Like if it's really authentic and it's really kind and it really is putting you in a place to take care of yourself, not selfish, not be more selfish, but be less selfish, but more kind in doing it correct, then I think you're going to be in a place where you don't have to battle. If I could just leave you with that, if we could end with in a place of not battling for our reinvention, that is the best. You're probably going to have one. You're probably going to have that one person that no matter what, that narcissist of the family, that no matter what, will end the relationship with it not being good for them. Somehow you let them down. They're out there. It's always going to happen. All right. We got through a lot of content. I didn't go through all the notes, but I got through quite a few. I want to encourage you on reinvention, and this is what I want to encourage you on. Building the confidence to reinvent takes time. Building the belief that you can reinvent takes time. Building the articulation for where you want to go takes a long time. Building the words up in your head to speak them the first time, it takes time. Let me give you an example. I wanted to learn, I had all this time in the car. So I'm like, I'm going to learn Chinese. So I got this back when Rosetta Stone was on CD. Got the Rosetta Stone, popped in my Chinese CD, and I'd be doing Mandarin all the way to work and Mandarin all the way home. Literally went on for like a month and a half. Like I could speak sentences. And what happens is, when I get out of the car, so you're like, hey, say something in Mandarin. I just freeze. Like outside of the car, outside of the context of Rosetta Stone, I couldn't speak a word of it. Like, I couldn't conjure up the words. Shui. Like, I couldn't even come up with that. Like, I couldn't come up with any of it. And I'm like, and it was infuriating because here I am on the car. I'm just talked for a half an hour in perfect Mandarin, perfect English Mandarin, right? No accent. No vocal inflection at all. So we'll call it just straight American Mandarin. We can be like that with our voice. We can be so in our heads that when we finally get out of our heads, we're like, blah. Or we're so in our heads that when we get out of our heads, we become so self-conscious, we like stuff it back in. We just can't accept it. And that's where I don't want you to go in your reinvention process. I want you to be able to face those challenges, face those abrasive people, face those places where you're going to have friction, face those places you're going to have heartache. So not only are you trying to reinvent yourself, but now you got the narcissist that just said, hey, my life is over. I spent 3 days in the kitchen crying over what you're doing to me. And you're like, I'm just trying to be kinder. Okay. I'm just being kinder. Okay. That's all I'm doing here. Just being kind. You're always going to have those. And then I think there comes a place where those relationships you have to face and go, they weren't what you thought they were. There can be some time there. There can be some time there. There can be some time. There can be some real world life stuff in those that's going to have to get unpacked. And that's part of reinvention. Like I said, no different than the person that reinvents, and it's as simple as I want to be on time. I want to show up on time, 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be there with my haircut, with clean clothes, and have my agenda put together in my head because I've already practiced what I'm going to say. You want to be that person? Well, you can't sit at that table until you go to bed early with your work previously done, get up early so you get a full night's sleep, get up early, review, get ready, review, go 10 minutes early, and then present. You don't get to eat at the table of success if you're not doing the things that lead to success. That's fair. And it's no different than that person facing those ribbings. I'm going to call them a ribbing. It's an older term. But, the guys get around, they kind of rib you because you're like, hey, bro, you want potato chips? No, you're on a diet, you want potato chips because you always have potato chips, right? You're going to have to face that. Not as deep as the person facing the narcissist in their life. Not at the same level. But it can still set you back. So be prepared for those. Reinvention's a real deal. I will get the website up. We're going to get that finished up. If you're just watching, this closes our time with reinvention. I have 4 additional reels on reinvention. Let's look at those really quick. I'm not going to put those out this week, but I will add them to the playlist. Creating positive habits. I thought that really could wait for another week. We'll touch on some of this, and then we're going to go to celebrate, ask for support, and then some more encouragement. So that does wrap up a grip of information on reinvention. So let's talk. Before we go, let's talk steps. 1, write down X that you want to change to Y. X, Y, Z. Okay? We're going to switch them up because now that I'm writing X, Y, Z statement, I said it wrong in the entire podcast. Now we're going to have to scratch all that. I don't want to turn it into an ABC. Well, let's make it ABC because we already messed up X, Y, Z. I will do A so that B can happen. ABC. Because I will do A so that B can happen so that I don't experience C again. I will do A so that B can happen so that I don't have to experience C again. It's a big deal. That's a great first step. If you've done that, and you're like, okay, Hatcher, I've already done that. I've kind of started reinvention, but I'm stuck. You need to go back to that. And then where C is involved, at C, I want you to write down underneath C what core values were impacted by that outcome. Because somewhere in there's a core value that was violated or disregarded, impacted. And if you are really, really tied to that core value enough that you want to reinvent, you probably need to define that. That would be a next great step. So I've done A, B, C. I will do A so that B doesn't happen again. And then the value statements of why not because of C. Those are great places to start. I would suggest starting there. If you want next steps, come over to Instagram, message me, because the messaging on YouTube is ridiculous. We'll have the Discord soon. Discord's done. We just need to get everybody over there. But those are great steps. Next step, if that doesn't really, really apply to you in your case, so let's kind of go through some things. Let's go through relationships. I think ABC is great for relationships. I think that's pretty good. I think I would stay there with relationships. Marriage, I think you could use ABC. I think professionally you could use ABC also. In a job, poor performance, better performance. I think you could use that. Now, those are kind of life change situations. Spouse, church, just casual interactions, forums, work groups, chat groups, professional groups online. I'm just thinking about all the places they interact with people, Facebook groups, stuff like that. He's got that abrasive person, and you get sucked into being abrasive because they're just never nice. You get on a live and they have to tell you why you're dumb, and then you want to react. Let's dive into, before we go, because we got 10 minutes, reinvention for aspirational purposes. So there was a reinvention process I had to go through to start the Belief Hero. That's a good example. There was a reinvention process that I've had to go through multiple times professionally. Those were about kind of a whole new life change. And so a baby step for that would be, I've got all these problems, all of life, the full pressure of life, because life does not discriminate. When none of us get a free pass. Reinvention for aspirational. You've got to write down that goal. I touched on it a little bit. You got to be honest. I would like to reinvent myself to do X. So you've got a health and wellness opportunity, but you're not the healthiest and most wellness. You're not known for health and wellness. That's a reinvention, right? Oh, that's a reinvention, right? What else? You're going to go and I won't ever drink soda before I live stream again. You are going to reinvent for a job. You got a job coming up, and you've got to try and reinvent for that. Those are aspirational reinventions. Start with a crystal clear goal. Write down that goal. Write down what you want. Write down exactly what that means. I need to earn X. I want to reach X. Now, if you're going to do content creation, you're going to be, what is it called? The person that influencer. You've got metrics to being successful in that. Write down the metrics that are going to be successful in that. Write down everything that you want to accomplish with that. And that is your reinvention. That is your reinvention journey. To reinvent yourself as an influencer, that is your goal. So now you're going to have to get rid of all the stuff that doesn't look like a health and wellness expert. You have to get rid of all the bad eating. You have to get rid of the no workout habits. You have to get out of all these bad habits to leave yourself with that life. So aspirationally speaking, for reinvention, not just relationships, you got to have a crystal clear goal. You have to tell yourself the truth. And then you're going to have to work on creating habits that fortify that trajectory. Things that only look like that trajectory. Instead of listening to books and binge watching Netflix, if you're going to be a YouTuber, you need to spend 2 or 3 hours a day watching videos and researching how to be a good YouTuber. That's just the bottom line. If you're going to work on cars, you're going to rebuild engines, and you need to work on engines during the day and then spend your evening learning how to get better at rebuilding engines. All the same. Okay? So now you're going to build habits that put you in momentum towards that goal. And that all starts with the reinvention process and deciding this is what I am, this is who I am, and this is where I want to go, and this is why I want to go there. No fluff. If you want to earn an extra 10 grand a month or whatever it is, then write that down. A reinvention process where you don't tell the truth is not reinvention. That is dysfunctional, and it's going to be miserable for you because you're going to be chased by all of these internal villains of insecurity and resentment and all unauthentic life that all come with it, living an inauthentic life. I'm almost out of words, been almost an hour. So, aspirationally speaking, those are your baby steps. Where do I want to go? How do I want to do it? And then you've got to surround yourself with people that are doing that. And then you have to surround yourself with only people who are doing that really, really well. Okay? That is how you do that. And then you have to challenge yourself daily. Did I do enough? Did I learn enough? And did I skill up today? If you go to bed at night and you haven't skilled up, well, you're going to stay up a little bit later. If you're going to sit at the table of success, successful people do something that unsuccessful people don't do. Doers make the time up. When it doesn't get done, a doer makes the time up. Everybody goes to bed, and you stay up and you work an extra hour and you finish. You get yourself investment time in to grow your skills, to grow your development for the next day. And that is what you have to do. And that is reinventing yourself with new behaviors that will lead to that outcome or that result. And that is how successful people do it. It's how everyone does it. And then you just simply have to outwork the resistance. That's it. That's all there is to it. So, we are at our hour. Oh man, that was fun. Holy cow. Next week's momentum. I'm pretty excited about momentum. We got 2 minutes here. I'm excited about momentum because momentum is the thing that kind of keeps us going. I'm going to give you a little hint on this. Momentum is when you're in the movie, the dragon movie. What's the dragon movie? With the kid that rides the dragons and his dad dies. What's the name of that movie? Some dragon movie by DreamWorks. What is it? What's the name of that movie? How to Train a Dragon. I'm retarded. Okay. You're in How to Train a Dragon. Your dad just died. Now you're stuck. The bad guys are going to take over. Your whole village is going to be dead. They're all looking to you. And what does Astrid do to him? What does Astrid say to him? She says, what? So what are you going to do about it? That's momentum. Oh, just kind of gives you that little push. Momentum is you're on a skateboard and you're working really hard and then you coast. That's momentum. We want to build momentum. We're going to take from our conversation at the end of tonight and we're going to start building momentum towards habits that make us successful next week. So next week is momentum. Big exciting stuff. Oh, you're going to laugh at me? What's the one thing I did not get done this week? I did not get an outro screen done. Oh. It's going to live in infamy on the internet. I wanted to. It's on my list. Yeah. It's on my YouTube list. Actually, it's on my streaming software list for things to learn on streaming. But because we're launching the Hero Hour podcast, which is a separate podcast that goes with the Belief Hero. It's an interview podcast. Since we're launching that soon, I decided to work on overlays for that this week instead of my outro scene. So that is why there isn't the outro scene. And you get a confession as we close. As we close this episode, you get a confession. It was on my list. Didn't quite make it to it. Worked on my overlays for the interview podcast, which I'm super excited about. Actually, I'm really excited. We have some amazing people that are already lined up to speak. 7-figure earners, close friends of mine, family close, that I think are going to be very inspiring when it comes to heroes and belief and what is possible when you set your mind to things. I mean, these are top-notch people with excellent results, and very excited for both of their stories from nothing to very successful, and stayed really great people along the way. So we are coming to a close. If you're joining in, say something in the chat. But yeah, that's starting up. We have a book club starting, which we're going to do in Twitter Spaces. I'm excited about. The reason we're doing that is because in Twitter Spaces, we will be able to have the book club. You can be at the gym, and you don't have to worry about being somewhere and having your face on. So you can just be somewhere and listen. I think Twitter Spaces fits that the best. It's a quick topic. So we'll pick a book, kind of goes along with Reinvention, Habits, something like that, Momentum. Got a couple picked out, so that'll be kicking off in a week or two. We got a lot of content. So we'll have the Be Bold Hour, which is this. We'll have the Hero Hour, which is the interview podcast. Tuesday-ish is what I'm thinking. We will have Twitter Spaces Book Club coming on a Wednesday. Monday, we're going to have a Monday Challenge, which we'll be doing on Instagram. And then we have all of our downloadable content and all that stuff. So, fun stuff. A lot of really good stuff. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this episode. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the support. And looking forward to building a relationship with you guys. Thanks. And hope this encouraged you on Reinvention. I hope this is encouraging. I hope you can go through this and go, okay, here's why Reinvention is important. Here are the hurdles, but here's the benefit. And I want to make this change. So if that's you, skip to the last 20 minutes. That'll cover a lot of that. So, all right. We are out. We're outie. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. We'll see you on Instagram.